Hey, how we doing, everybody? I hope you all are watching here live on YouTube. I wanted to come on here and give you guys some updates on our recent investment opportunity. We've got some traction here, and it's a lot of fun. So we raised $250,000 last week, and another $140,000 this week. And all these investments are for a business that we're purchasing in the Nashville, Tennessee market. And it's been a lot of fun to be able to partner with the people in Tennessee and to put this all together. It's took quite a bit of our team's capacity to do all the forensic accounting, build the documents with my law team to make this a legal investment, to offer my investors a 10% return on their investment, a 10% return on their investment with an additional 10% on the back end. So we wanted to come on here and just give you an update on that stuff because it's been a lot of fun. It really has. And we hope that we can connect with each and every one of you that have invested with us to tell other people about the opportunities that we have. And I wanted to come on and just educate on the market. So, there's still a lot of turmoil in the multifamily market, as we can see that rent inflation, or let's say the rent is still, falling a little bit due to inflation is the right words. So with the rent the way it is in some of these big cities, with inflation getting very expensive on groceries and everything else, we're not able to increase rent like we used to be. And that's one of the reasons that I kind of left the multifamily value add space, is because you make money in multifamily value add by physically buying an apartment building and then renovating. And when you renovate, you're able to get a higher rent. Well, let's be honest, you're direct to the customer, meaning you can go in and rent and do as much as you want. But if your customer, your renter, can't afford to pay for it, all that work is kind of a waste. And if you've built your entire business plan on that, it's not going to work out well. So we've decided to kind of switch a little bit. We're going to develop new multifamily in a hybrid private equity fund. And this hybrid private equity fund is pretty neat because it gives the ability for us to give cash flow during the development phase. And what that means is, most of the time when you develop real estate or you develop anything, all you're doing is get a construction loan and you are paying your lender. So you're just paying interest carry. And the more money you draw out, the bigger the payment gets. So you don't get to give your investors very much cash. I have seen people give cash during that investment hold period, but the problem is that's usually engineered cash flow. What is engineered cash flow? Engineered cash flow means that they over raised and they have that money set aside to give the investors the return. Well, essentially, when you raise more money, more than what you need, you're dragging down the returns on that investment. So we don't do that. We don't recommend it. We want to make sure that we have an honest portfolio and we have an honest profit and loss statement, meaning we raise money, we deploy money, we only deploy as much as needed, and then we only borrow as much as needed. And then the bigger return on that investment is because we used our money wisely. And one of the biggest things that we've seen is a lot of you investors, you want cash flow. I understand that. I would like cash flow myself. Everything in this world revolves around cash flow. So if you need cash flow, then you need an investment opportunity that gives cash flow. But if you're a problem solver like me and you have a heart, a servant's heart, and you like to go out here and help other people like I do, you want to provide housing. There's still a huge housing shortage, and we want to be an answer for that. We want to be an advocate that can come out here and build housing for people. And apartment buildings is what I like to do. It's a larger scale. We can provide many families a place to live. So we decided to take this investment opportunity and pair it with the service businesses of the world, like the electrical, the plumbing, and the sign companies and the excavation companies, all the companies that's involved in developing multifamily real estate or any real estate. So we're able to partner with the businesses by investing in them and then getting a share of that cash flow and passing that cash flow through straight to our investors during that time frame. And when we do that, we're able to give you a return on your investment, all while developing the real estate, which at the end, we have depreciation. And at that depreciation phase, you as an income earner has the ability to write off some of your earned income. So I am not a tax professional. You should definitely consult with your tax professional. Everybody is different. If you're an active real estate investor or a real estate professional, they call it, then you can write off a lot of your depreciation. You can write off a lot of your earned income. Doesn't mean it works for everybody. Everybody's different. That's why I say consult with your tax professional, your attorney, whoever is in your CPA, whoever's doing your taxes, whoever's doing your tax planning in your trust or whatever you're using to make these investments. Make sure you consult with them. But I wanted to come on here and give this update. And I wanted to take about 10, 15 minutes to come on and just talk about the current world of multifamily. And next, I'm going to get into kind of why the multifamily space continues to struggle. If you're not involved in it, you may not know why there's the struggle in the multifamily world, especially the older value add products. But we got our business game changer, our real estate game changer live Q&A coming up here in about 15 minutes. So I'm going to keep this prompt. So essentially in the investment world of multifamily, especially 200 doors and more, a lot of investors overpaid. So, before COVID, in the middle of COVID, when they're printing a tremendous amount of money, when you buy a property, you try to achieve a 2.5 to 3% rent increase per year. So if you have 200 doors and you're increasing that rent, every time somebody moves out and you move somebody in, you're just turning that unit, you're trying to increase that rent. So whenever somebody just renews, that's when you're trying to get a 2.5 to 3% rent bump on a renewal. Meaning if your lease is up in an apartment and you have to go in and re-sign, that rent will increase. We try to keep up with inflation. Now, what we have seen is the pace between raises and the raise in the amount of cost of groceries and stuff like that. Your raise hasn't matched what the cost of groceries is, and that's due to inflation. Lots of inflation is causing this problem. So, for instance, what we've done in the past is we'd buy an apartment building, we'd go in, and this thing's 1985, hasn't been renovated hardly at all since it was built. And we go in and we replace the shag carpet. We replace all the tired appliances, the yellow appliances, and the ugly fixtures. And we put in new light fixtures of the proper color, whether that's stainless or black. And then we also put in newer appliances, black and stainless, high efficiency appliances, high or low flow toilets, low flow water fixtures to help you save on your energy bills. And then we also update the flooring. So we put LVP vinyl flooring in, and then we repaint the walls with modern colors. And that essentially is how we renovate an apartment. It's called forced appreciation. So when you buy these apartment buildings, you have a business plan. Well, a lot of these cities and states have seen tremendous amount of inflation, and renters have not been able to keep up with the rent the way it is. So if a buyer like myself or others come in and we buy apartment buildings and we renovate, essentially we're creating a product for somebody that's not able to rent it. And that's a problem. It's a problem for the community of having housing that's there, but it's too expensive. And then it's also a problem for the business owner themselves, because if they're not able to get their actual product costs, it doesn't work. So here's the big thing. We have to think about this as business owners and entrepreneurs. We have to make sure that we understand that what we're doing is an impact, and we're direct to customer. So we have to make sure that we have a business plan that works for the current time, the current markets. And you used to going in and getting a $200 or $300 a month rent bump when we renovate an apartment, which was somewhat normal. $200 is kind of the even playing field. So that being different now, we got to think about that. So this is one of the reasons we've decided to pivot to the multifamily development space and also the business buying space. In our current opportunity, we're buying a sign business that's done 50,000 doors of multifamily, and they do the monument signs, they do the wayfinding signs. So as you're going around the property, going to the leasing office and stuff like that, that's the signs that they do. It's called a sign package. They've done 50,000 doors of that. Pretty impressive. $26 million of revenue since 2016. And they also do fleet wraps. And the fleet wraps are your mechanical, electrical, plumbing companies that are running around with the fancy logos and stuff on the side. That's what they do. That's their bread and butter, and they do very, very well at it. And we've decided to make an investment into this company, help them remove some high interest debt, help them remove some other strenuous things that are hard on the business to become independent. And we've decided to come alongside them and partner with them and raise about $2 million to do this, all while offering our investors a 10% preferred return. And there's enough cash flow in that to actually pay a 10% cash on cash. So a lot of the multifamily value add space, it's raised money on a syndication. And that syndication is usually a 506C with a 70/30 with an 8% preferred return, meaning that you get a Class A. So let me explain that real quick. So an LLC is what you set up to do the syndication. You set that up and you register it with Security Exchange Commission. When you register that with the Security Exchange Commission, you're able to sell Class A memberships of that LLC. So there's A members and there's B members. Your general partners, which are your owners, the actual people that sign on the loan, those are who I am. And we find the opportunity, we identify the opportunity, and a syndication is only one address. And we take that opportunity and we physically formulate a LLC that we can sell shares. Now, you guys are the A members, meaning you get the lion's share of the profit first. Outside, we have to pay the debt first. So as you know, a lender always wants to make sure their debt is getting paid. So they get their money first. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. After that, we have to pay the expenses on the property. So after all expenses are paid and the debt is paid, any leftover cash, that's shared to you. So if it's an 8% preferred return, you get 8% of that cash. And then anything beyond the 8% cash gets split at a 70/30. 70% to the investor, 30% to us as the general partners. Here's the issue. A lot of the times these multifamily value add deals only cash flow at about 4%. So you're only getting a 4% cash on cash. Depending on the way the documents are wrote, it can be a big deal for anyone that is a general partner. If your documents are in place and says that your Class A return gets paid in full before any other cash is shared, that means that partners, we're not taking any other fees. We're not taking anything else to the deal. So you guys are accruing 4% per year. Also, pro tip, if you are investing in one of these opportunities, you need to read the operating agreement very, very well. In the operating agreement, it should spell out exactly how your investment is put together, whether that's compounding interest or not. There's a big difference between compounded or not. And here's a simple answer to that. If it's an 8% preferred return and it's a straight return, meaning it's non-compounding, it means it's 8% over the entire hold. So you're only going to make 8% on the money. But if it's compounding, it means that it actually is 8% per year. So 8% per annum. So that's a big difference. You need to check that because it can make a big difference on your actual investment returns. So here's the thing. A lot of these multifamily deals, they only cash flow at about 4% cash on cash. Well, if that's the case, you're not getting your full 8% preferred return. It can put a lot of stress on the entire operation because as we know, every business and in everybody's life, they die by cash flow. Like you got to have cash flow to operate a company properly. And if you're not paying all the returns, it's really hindering the operations. So it's not your fault. It's everybody kind of conglomeratively putting things together. Some inexperience, some things it's just insurance went up, taxes went up. These are unforeseeable things that happen. We never had the bank for stuff like this before, but we did. And here's the thing is when you overpay for a property and then you have more expenses that drags the net operating income down. Well, all commercial property is evaluated off of net operating income divided by the market cap rate. That gives you the sell price of the property. Well, when your expenses go up and your net operating income drops and your execution on the business plan was to grow the top line of the business, the gross potential revenue of the business. If it's not growing and you have expenses growing at the same time, it's a bad storm. And that bad storm can equal that your property is not worth as much money as you originally thought. And we usually hold these things 3 to 5 years. And at that time, now you're in a bad situation, because that bad situation is your investors are probably not going to get back what you quote unquote promised them. And you're not going to get back the money that you thought you would. And you're wanting to sell it. Well, me as a new investor, new buyer, I can't pay the amount of money that you're wanting for it because number one, the expenses are higher. They're probably going to be higher for me. Number two is the cap rate is much different than when you bought it than when I'm buying it, the market cap rate. The other thing that's an issue is the actual loan that you got on the loan is probably much lower interest than what I have to get a loan for today. The interest rates are higher. So I'm having to pay more for debt, more for expenses. And then simply the market cap rate is not favorable to you as the owner. And you still want a tremendous amount of money, and it just doesn't make sense. So I wanted to just come on here for a few minutes and just, 17 minutes now. I want to just come on here and give some guidance on some certain things in the market, give you an update on our current investment, and just say thank you for everybody that has invested in our opportunity. We would not be able to raise this money if it wasn't for your support and you guys actually making the investment, liking our media, sharing our media, and doing all the things that you do. I want to say thank you. So we're here at 18 minutes. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and we'll see you on the next video.